Okay, so good morning everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. First and last, always. Sit quietly. Quietly means not without making noise, but untouched by noise. You're not coming from somewhere, neither going somewhere. So just reminding you that we use WhatsApp as a means of communication. It's an app, and you can use it to send your messages directly to me. The number appears on the comments below, so it is quite easy. So today we're going to talk about an obstacle into your quest for liberation, for self-realization. It is a very big obstacle because it doesn't seem to be. And an obstacle, what's an obstacle in the quest for truth? This can be a little bit confusing, but an obstacle is that which makes you waste your time. That even this can be a little deceiving. Is that which distracts you from using your time intensely to the quest of self-realization, intensely, undividedly. That is an obstacle to self-realization. Because sometimes there are moments that things are difficult and you're using your time intensely, undividedly, and it seems that you're not moving. In a sense, you're not overcoming that, you're not growing. But still, if you're using your time intensely, it is moving, and whatever is there to be solved, it is being taken care of. So an obstacle, it's really that which doesn't allow you, which distracts you, of using your time intensely, undividedly. That is the real obstacle. You see, things are not as clear as they seem. It is a game of deception. So this illusion sustains itself by deception. And there's a lot of deceptions to stop you from using your time intensely, undividedly. And those who are following the wits of their mind, their ideas or others' ideas that they fancy, they are under the guise of deception. They are being guided by deception, convinced that that is the best. And this is the best deception, is the one that you can vouch for. And a lot could be said about this, but let us just touch a little bit about in this. So one of the biggest deceptions is the philosophies that are being presented, everything which is being directed to this well-being industry, this well-being, an entertainment industry that appears to be spiritual. So this is a distraction, big distraction, because it prevents you to dive intensely, undividedly. We'll go into this probably a little bit later. So let's start from the basics into this concept, and let's see how it unfolds. So into this context, we can divide seekers more or less in two groups. One group that, despite their efforts, their work, their meditations and all, they don't seem, it's difficult for them to have spiritual experiences, to tap into these more subtle currents, these currents of love. And there's another group which is quite easy for them to tap into these currents, these subtle currents, to tap into these higher dimensions, even silence. And if you look at them and you don't know, you might think that those who don't have any experiences, they cannot reach it. They see nothing, they feel nothing, more or less. They are less evolved than those who have more experiences, spiritual experience, which is easy for them just to sit and wow. But that's not the case. This is not nothing to compare one seeker to another. It doesn't define their level of awareness, their level of their spiritual development. It doesn't. They just have different challenges ahead of them. Different challenges. And in a way, This spiritual seeker that doesn't have experiences has an advantage. He doesn't think he has an advantage, of course. He suffers because others see this, do that, and they can't, and all of this. But they have an advantage that they don't know. They are less prone for distractions. And with the absence of those experiences, they usually tend to commit harder, to sacrifice more, because they feel that they are lacking something. But both of these seekers will have to go through this obstacle, both of them. The other one that can tap into this and feel these currents and just be in love and tune in very easily will deal with this obstacle immediately. The other one will take some time, but eventually his efforts will bring fruits, and these fruits will become sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And this is the big obstacle, because if you're not matured as a seeker of truth, you will for sure distract yourself and stop the intensity and be dragged by these nectar-like currents, states, and your precious time fades through your hands without even you seeing it, thinking, imagining that you are really using your time in the best sense possible. Those who, in these beginning stages, have been able or been blessed, depends from where you're looking, to get guidance, direct guidance. They don't have this problem unless they break with guidance. Usually that's what happens. Because when the sweet currents come, and they will eventually, it will feed whatever is there. So whatever is good becomes better, and whatever is bad becomes stronger. So in this moment, it is a period where guidance can be broken, because the seeker finds himself filled of himself. It's like almost he's already enlightened. So his ideas start becoming very important all of a sudden, and more sensitive to this and that, and usually it tends to break with guidance, whatever that means, in a sense or in another, because it can take different variables. So if we look at these deities, these images, the stories, and just by looking at them, it's very symbolic in this sense. It is a message which is being given. You have Shiva, despite his level of awareness and consciousness and what he stands for, what he is there at Mount Kailash, meditating profoundly. More or less, he is holding the torch for, like, how do you say this in English? That light that doesn't allow the boats to stray and allows them to find their safe path to the coast. A lighthouse, maybe. Yes, maybe. I think it's a lighthouse in English. So Shiva, from his abbot, from his divinity, is not not enjoying like other deities. He is sitting in profound meditation and doesn't like to be disturbed by others. He doesn't like to be disturbed by others. And even he really reacts really harshly when he gets disturbed. So other deities are a little bit afraid to come near when he's meditating because they know that things can get rough. And all of this is a message, an example. He is holding the torch of the seeker of truth. He is giving an example of how a seeker of truth must behave in these heavenly realms. And those heavenly realms, they represent, in this context, this inner currents, subtle currents, which eventually each seeker will tap into. And they can be much more distracting than the normal state of awareness of all seekers, this 3D dimension. And if your motivation is still confused, if you're partly into the quest for freedom, to improve life, to find love in a romantic sense or in a psychological sense, of feeling complete at the personality sense, and this is very difficult to see. And doubt will always be there, but what makes a difference is the steady, the intensity of the commitment, of the investment. So if you're using your time intensely, it doesn't matter which motivations are there. If this persists, the bad ones will leave, the good ones will increase. It will happen on its own. Sometimes reflection is needed because, well, you're distracted, and then only reflection can bring you. So if your motivations are not clear, a majority, normally they are not, because if you don't know who you are, well, self-realization is not there yet. And that means if you're a seeker of truth and you're using your time into that direction, that means that motivations are still not as they should be, and at least some part of your work is still feeding your delusion instead of releasing you. So if you've gone through this period of intense practices and you were in this group of those who cannot feel, perceive anything, they feel themselves blind, dumb, and deaf compared to other seekers, eventually, when these fruit starts to come, you probably already have created a discipline of some sort. You already seen some mechanisms of how it works. So it will be less difficult and you're not afraid of work and sacrifice. So it will be less difficult to waste time. But if there was suppression, if you had not been using your time to work what was really important, and if those motivations are still mixed, which probably they are, these things will come intensely, and it is very easy to distract and to start enjoying these currents. You see, the path of the seeker of truth is like it's planting, not collecting, not taking what he has planted. There's a word, but I'm not remembering it. Not reaping, maybe. what you have planted. It's just planting, 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 planting. This is very important, this attitude of not losing the focus. Because things are there, and if they have room, it is very easy to stray. So obstacles which are more dense in nature, with more friction, they are more difficult in a way, but they provide different opportunities also, good ones, because it's more difficult to distract. But at this level, when the fruit starts to come, the sweet fruits, the sweetness of the path, it can take lifetimes to get out from them. Because they are nice, they are pleasant, and in a sense, it was what you were looking for. But if you have worked hard to get so far, well, for once you will not be able to stay there immediately, not for long, because it doesn't fit your world of beliefs, so you'll fall down from that again, and that will make you work, and that will bring maturity also. So let's look at the other seekers, the ones that have it is easy for them to tap into these currents. Well, majority are very nice people, sensitive, loving, caring, peaceful in nature, and fragile also. A lot of times there's fragility, a lot of fragility, a lot of difficulty with intensity. And this is the difficulty. And the more easy it is to tap into these currents, the more difficult will be to stop wasting time, because it is nice. So they come, they take a little bit, they stay in silence a little bit, they go back to the world. And they use these currents to survive, to maintain that character. It becomes a part of their delusion, of their deception. And this can go on and on and on and on, especially in these environments, where appearances, it's the most important. And if it is a game of deception, you must take into account that appearances will deceive. So in a world where everybody's, in this context of course, wants to appear enlightened and special and evolved and whatever, well, these people, they have the best seats in the house in this context. So with all these appeals, not only from what they can tap easily, but the feedback that others give them, time flies and they continue into that intoxicating state. Of course, they have their feedbacks that could help them to get out from that inertia, but they fail to take it. Mind doesn't really cope with that, doesn't understand clearly, has difficulty to understand, because it is convinced of a lot of things which are more important. And fragility is still there and growing and growing. Because if you can tap it or not, that's just a way. It's like you have a radio with an antenna that works or that doesn't work. So you use your radio to tune, or you're trying to use your radio to tune into that station. And if your antenna is good, you will tune to that station. If the antenna is not good, you will not tune to that station. But if you cannot tune to that station, it doesn't mean that the station is not there. And if you can tune to that station, well, at least it is confirmed, station is there. But you're still tuning, you're still a part of it. Not the same, you're still a part of it. Separated. So eyes closed, eyes open, it doesn't make much of a difference. It doesn't really. No one is in a better condition comparing these two opposites. All have advantages and disadvantages. But what's curious is, for both, what they see as advantages is actually disadvantages. And the same for the others. Because they have different challenges. Remember, it is a game of deception. And the point is to distract you. So the work, the spiritual path, it's about dissolving illusion, dissolving the cornerstone of illusion, which is individuality, that character. And that part is the same for all. And that part will bring the fruits, the nice fruits, but it's not made of nice. It is difficult, intense, painful. It's an epic battle, a battle of epic proportions, like those who appear on the scriptures. And with those characteristics, different characteristics, you will have different challenges, but you will face the battle nonetheless. And that you cannot go around it. So you're there sipping into this nectar, divine nectar of experiences. Wow, feeling yourself, and this is very nice. And then you go to the world and you continue to entertain yourself and others. If you've not gone through this battle of epic proportions, it hasn't really started yet. And of course, you can only remain in that silence for a certain period of time. A safe period of time. Because if it is too long, it starts to crumble a little bit your world. So you have to maintain a balance in both. This is how the character survives. And it's easy to see, for example, those who are in the beginning stages, they start working intensely, and when the nice fruits come, they feel all that happiness overflowing from inside of them. And what do? They run to share it with others. There's an impulse to share. What does this mean, to share? It means to get out from it, to reduce its intensity. It's like a security mechanism to avoid to stay in that state for long, because of the impact it will have. So coming and going, coming and going. So the nectar that supposedly brings liberation is the nectar which is used to maintain illusion. And what appears to be a superior state of consciousness, when you dive deep, you'll find solidity, 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 and then holes everywhere that crumbles the whole building with them. So for those who live in these realms, who can tap into these subtle currents, blissful currents, they can take example from Shiva, which is there. Instead of enjoying those comforts, enjoying those heavenly comforts, that heavenly bliss, luxuries, whatever, he is sitting in meditation and taking care of it, protecting it as precious, and getting angry if anyone comes to disturb, even fulminating them. Because tapping into these currents or not it's just a circumstantial difference. And it doesn't make much of a difference. Oh, I can touch it, so I must be enlightened. No, deception continues. Because it's not about if it is there or not. It's about if you're there or not, the way you're perceiving yourself. So dissolution of delusion, that is the work of the seeker of truth. And eventually, in the first stages, if you have been doing things right, eventually guidance has to be there. And it's not a guidance that comes in a whisper, in a wind, in a current, something that I see from here, from there, an angel, a saint. No, 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 no. Guidance that comes from one place, either a master in a body or something there without any body which is giving you the direction. Clear-cut instruction. Either one or the other. The rest is just into that lullaby that makes you sleep, and years, lives pass very quickly and you're not even seeing it. And this is why we look at the traditions, the spiritual traditions, and we have these ethical, moral values that are put there, that today they are considered meaningless, because you just have to, and it's done. No, because if you don't work these ethical values, that you may imagine that is for you to become a better person, but that's just side effects. And better is just relative to who is watching. A saint can be called a demon can be called a saint, depending on who is watching, and why, and what he wants, and its agenda, and a lot of things. It's about purifying your motivations, so that when this nectar starts flowing, you can continue to grow instead of distracting yourself or fall down the cliff again. And there's no way to go around this. So if you imagine that just by tuning and being there, this will solve everything, it's not really the case. It is a game of deception. But usually you cannot be in tune with this too long. It's the coming and going that maintains this balance. So the real message is, did that epic battle happen? Are you holding the flame of intensity, undivided intensity? And the question to this most likely is no. And for you, as you look at it, most likely is yes, because it is a game of deception. And your mind is playing you, is playing tricks. Your delusion, your world depends on certain structures. And if you see things in a different way of what you need to see, it can crumble the structures. So you will see certain things very easily and others in a very difficult manner, and others you will be completely oblivious, depending on what is there, or what can be seen and what has to be protected at all costs. So if it is a real process, you're going through or starting or going through that epic battle of epic proportions, and for sure, direct guidance is there. A guidance that comes. It's like you're speaking to someone. It is telling you this and this. It will not be there entertaining you or seducing you or putting sweet words in there. If it is, well, it's just part of the deception. And into these realms or something similar, not similar in nature, but that wants to appear to be that, because deceptions go very far. There's a lot of these things, but this is just entertainment, to keep you full of yourself, to give you the feeling of being special, profound. This will gather others around you for sure. But where's the fire? So for those they have this easiness into tapping into these currents, to feel the silence, to be in silence, whatever way you want to call it. Other words for that epic battle is fire. So this love, these nice currents have to become steady, intense fire. How do they do this? Well, that is what Shiva is telling, is pointing, is showing. Keeping the focus. Does this have anything to do with the body? No, of course not. But for those who are saying that, no, of course not, well, for them, the majority, yes, it has. Because all of these philosophies that are coming now, they are a distraction. And you can tap into this love, but where is the fire? And maybe if you hear the word fire, if you've never experienced it, Well, you may think that it is this or that, but it is unmistakable. So if you're there with these characteristics, and if you have potential, for sure there must be there something, despite how nice it is, pinching a little bit, something which is telling you that there's not much room for more, for direct instruction, because that feeling of special may be overwhelming. But for sure, if there's potential, there's something pinching somewhere telling you things are not what they seem. There's something which is not in its place. Just a little hint, because the majority of times there's not much room for much more than a little hint. And things come as it is possible, because, well, these tend to bring this feeling of special. And you see, there's something which I usually speak about, which is humility. And this is very important, because if you have this humility, if you're humble, then no matter how blind you may be, there will be room for something a little bit more direct. But if you don't have this, only just a few hints, and usually the mind tends to dismiss it. Look at the bright side. So that just something of my head or something. But that small hint will be there. The dissolution of the structures is intense, very difficult. And you cannot confuse it with anything. There was messages entering here, no sound. I wasn't seeing it. Too much sound now. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so it's a question in Portuguese, but I will ask. So, okay, so first is this one. Is it correct to have motivations during meditation? So what I want to know, if in the practice of meditation, instead of emptying the mind and repeating it, we should fill it with motivations as having love, stop any addiction. Well, when I speak of motivations, I'm talking far beyond this. And meditation, there is a video about meditation, but meditation, spiritual practice, is 24/7. So that period where you're sitting for meditation is just a small part of your day. So everything matters. Everything matters. And this is, when there's a division into this, then this is undivided attention. So that means it is very superficial yet. It has to mature much more. And I will answer this. She asked if I could answer in Portuguese. I will make this just paragraph in Portuguese. Then I will go back to English again. Então, o que eu estava a dizer é que a prática da meditação por si só é uma pequena parte do processo espiritual. Uma pequena parte do seu dia. A prática espiritual de um buscador da verdade é 24 sobre 24. Não é? E tudo conta, tudo conta. Então este tipo de motivação, este tipo de prática ainda é bem superficial, precisa de amadurecer muito, mas muito mais, muito mais. Okay. So another question here. Let's ask some basic questions. What's the purpose of life? I'm sorry. Well, I don't know about that here. I'm only speaking to those which know that their purpose of life is self-realization. That's the only thing I'm answering here. I answer a lot of things because, well, sometimes people confuse things a little bit, but this is what I'm answering. Okay, so Dinesh, why I didn't relax mentally? Sometimes feel telepathy, that is true or false? Radhe Radhe. Well, if you can improve your question a little bit, that will be very useful. But telepathy and other things, well, people have these things and some don't, and this doesn't make much of a difference. It's like I was saying, different seekers with different challenges. So the thing is, are you a seeker of truth or not? And if you're a seeker of truth, you may be distracted and trying to focus, or you may be in the track. And this, the difference is, guidance will change according to these circumstances and will continue to change. But the purpose of spirituality is not about explaining phenomenons. It is about truth. And these are different things. These are different things. There's different sorts of manifestations that are doing what they are supposed to do, which is keeping you in awe, keeping you bewildered, distracted. That's it. So these things that are not in the level of the common experiences shared by everyone through the five senses alone. These things, if they can tell you something, is that reality doesn't resume itself to these five senses experiences. It goes beyond. Not reality, but what you call reality. So the dream is a little bit wider. Because people tend to see that all these experiences are here, so this must be false and this must be true. It isn't. It's just another layer of illusion. Okay, so for today, that's it. So next satsang will be, this time will be Thursday. Wednesday will not be possible, so it will be Thursday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. If you have questions about this, well, you can send. And for those of you who are into this circumstance, it is quite difficult to acknowledge it first because, well, pride is involved, a lot of things are involved. It is difficult, it is. But if you're in the quest for liberation, if that is what is calling you, really, then it will be unavoidable. And the more you build and spend time building into these circumstances, and with these circumstances, the more difficult will be to demolish it. There has been a lot of investment into these non-dual movements, lifestyles, according to these translated philosophies to a certain consumer type. A lot of lives have been built on this, and you're seeing that it is fruitless, but still going back, it's very difficult, but not impossible, not impossible. And that's what separates a seeker of truth from a seeker of well-being. In the end, it always makes the right choice. The right choice. Okay.